All right, welcome back. I have here with me a special guest who very high-flying. Her CV is quite intimidating. We're going to be chatting with her to give us an insight into all of the great things she does. Ayode Joshua, thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
How have you spent the holidays? Was it as dirty as the rest of Lagos has been?
No, I've had to work, and I also spent it with my family. So it's been a very good Christmas for me.
Yeah, completely off topic now. Talking about the December and the way Lagos has become this center for attracting people in December. And it's almost not intentional from government or anything. It's just happened. I don't know. Do you think it's like a kind of opportunity there for tourism that can even be spread out across the year, maybe? I
think so. I think Dirty December can become a theme that we have. Like we have Afro Nation in Ghana.
Yeah.
We can have that in Nigeria. Across different states. I think it could be a good thing for government.
I find it really fascinating. Like people literally run to Lagos just
every day.
Dance. That is quite interesting. Well, let's talk about you. I was going through this. Congratulations on your wins at the Commonwealth. What was it with the Commonwealth, first of all?
So every year, the Commonwealth tries to find young people across the Commonwealth countries that are doing work to advance any of the SDGs. So, you nominate people, and then the Commonwealth will decide who they want to recognize. So I won the category for Africa and Europe for advancing gender equality. Then I won the overall Commonwealth Young Person of the Year.
Okay. Yeah. How do you win these things? Because I'd like to win things. So do you enter? Do you just get identified? How does that work?
People nominate you. So they do a call, and then they say, you can self-nominate, or someone could nominate you, and the person must be able to attest to your work.
Yeah.
So I had people, just nominate me, and then it's left to... So I think they had like 3 different steps, so 500 nominations. Then they cut it down to 100, then to 50, then to 16, then to 4, and then the final one.
Yeah.
So it's a very tedious process, and I'm super grateful to have.
So what does STER stand for?
Stand to End Rape Initiative.
Okay. And that's what you want for, okay?
Yeah. And it's a body of young people across Nigeria who are advancing gender equality, advocating against sexual and gender-based violence, and providing support to survivors.
Yeah. So what are you doing different? Because there's a lot of people who work in that space. There's a lot of NGOs, a lot of non-governmental organizations who are doing things with regards to sexual violence, domestic violence, rape. Yeah. What are you doing differently?
So we are survivor-centered. Before we establish any program, we actually do like a needs assessment. What is the missing thing? What is the gap? What can we do to fill those gaps? And also we're youth-led, so everyone on board is a young person. And when young people are, into any advocacy space, we bring drive, with passion, energy, and all of that. So yeah, we're doing that differently.
How long has this been going on for, Star?
5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been 5 years.
I'm tempted to ask, was there a reason why you launched this?
Yes, everyone has a personal story, but above the personal story, I just couldn't understand how every day I would read newspapers or go on social media and I would see, Nkechi, 5-year-old girl, had been raped. But also information about the perpetrator or, what services was provided to survivors. So I was very concerned that we can't keep using names of, victims just to drive stories.
Yeah.
We needed to ensure that there are, responsive systems to provide support to those survivors. And importantly, we need to begin to look towards prevention. How can we reduce or even eliminate, forms of gender and sexual violence against women and girls?
Yeah.
So that's, why it was established in 2014.
Okay. So you work with survivors?
Yes.
In what way? Do you rehabilitate or?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have like different thematic areas from advocacy, so policy advocacy, sexual harassment bill, VAP bill at the time is now a law. We do awareness, so we go to communities to engage, boys and men on their roles to end sexual violence. We do prevention, and importantly, we do support. So that's where we do medical, legal, and mental health support to survivors. And in instances, so say, for example, a survivor has been raped by an uncle who is responsible for education. For you to provide holistic support to such a person, you need to take them out of the environment and bear the cost of their education. So all of those sort of services we provide.
How tough is this running this? Do you have what's your team like? how many of you are doing this?
So the core team, we're about 15, 18 people. But in terms of volunteers in general, we're about 200 across Nigeria. And it's very tough because on a daily basis, we're, listening to stories. We're trying to find the best ways to help them, even with the, death of holistic support available across the nation. So we just try to find what works best for each survivor. For us, it's about how can we help one survivor at a time. It's not about numbers. It's about one person that we can, change.
And do people come often to speak up? Because I know people have always complained that's one of the toughest things, getting survivors to actually report or sort of admit to the fact that they were victims of or survivors of rape.
We've had people speak up, but again, sometimes it takes a process. So if a survivor experiences any form of gender-based violence today, in the next 2 months, they might not be able to speak out because they're still trying to gain their strength, find their voice and all of that. So it does take time, but we've had a lot of people reach out to us. I think there was even a month that we had almost 100 cases.
Wow.
Yeah, so people come out, trying to, from, sexual violence to FGM to domestic violence. It's not just rape, it's sexual harassment as well. So a lot of people do reach out to us and say, how can you help me? Yeah.
Do you ever experience like pushbacks from perpetrators or people who don't believe these stories? I don't know if it's something or if it's a segment you deal with. I'm talking of just my interaction with people and sometimes what you see on social media when someone speaks up, the first reaction is to blame or call the person a liar. How does that affect your work?
It does, because when we ask survivors to speak up, then it's important that we have safe spaces and systems for them, to have a soft landing. So when people pick holes in stories of survivors or question them, you're literally making our work harder because you're telling the next survivor to not speak up because it would find holes in your story as well. But what we do is to, use different campaigns to create positive messaging on social media and even offline to help people understand that when a survivor speaks up, it takes courage, to even speak up in the first place. Rather than you, blaming them or looking for loopholes in their stories, try to support them. The first thing should be empathy. Try to support them. Then leave it to those who are working in the space to do their investigation and say, oh, maybe there's a loophole here. And in 5 years of my work, I've hardly had cases where there are loopholes. Because, perpetrators always become defensive. Oh, it's a lie, I didn't do it. And people online will say, oh, no, she's lying as well. But when we actually do like deep research, because we have psychologists and psychiatrists and lawyers on board, when they engage the survivors and they help them backtrack their stories, you find that it's actually true. It might not add up because some of them maybe there was use of alcohol during the rape experience. So some parts of the detail is missing or it's not right. It's not because they are lying. It's just because they were under an influence at the time. So it does make our work difficult, but as much as possible, we also try to engage people and let them understand that, see, rape is not something anybody is very happy to experience. It's a very difficult space. And so when someone gets that courage to come open, let's just support and embrace them. And then leave it to the legal aspects to find out if there are loopholes, which there hardly are.
I asked that because I know people deal with, these things differently. And you can't really tell someone how to heal or how they want to express, what they've been through. But I always wonder, is social media a good place to sort of, let that out? Because people always say, oh, if this happens to you, why are you telling us? Why not go to the police or why not go to an organization like yours? And people also say, well, I'm telling this story so that the next person doesn't fall victim. What would you say is the right way? Maybe not the right way. What would you advise, someone who's gone through that to do in a situation like that?
For anyone who has experienced sexual violence or any form of GBV, the first step is actually to go to a police station to register your case, and then you'll be referred to the next Sexual Assault Referral Center, SAC, or a government-owned hospital or primary health care center. But for some people, they are unable to, interface with the police directly. So what they do is they come on social media with hopes that someone can link them up to an organization that can help them. So I believe social media is a great place, to find help, to find support. But there are also other ways to find support offline. But I think people should actually, report to the police, go to a medical center, find an NGO around your state or your locality, make a report to them, and then they can follow through with the process.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for the very great advice. I want to ask one more question before we go on a break. I can see you were Time 100 Next Titan. How did that happen as well?
I just got an email one day from the editor-in-chief of Time magazine, and, that they have been monitoring my work, and they're very impressed. And I've been featured on Time 100 Next. And so a reporter from Time magazine contacted me to have an interview with me to get, information about the work that I do and what STAIR does in general. So.
Nice, congratulations. And Obama is your friend. But I see him tweeting at you. I'm like, okay. Well, we're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we'll find out about all the other causes that you pursue and what women should be looking forward to in 2020. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, I have here with me Ayo Deji Oshobi, and we're talking about, the power of the voice in 2019, basically. We've talked extensively about gender-based violence and rape. And I want to talk about some of the other things that, Nigerians did in 2019 that were quite, commendable. The End SARS movement was pretty powerful. Free Show Warrior was very powerful as well. These are some of the things that I know Nigerians took and carried on their head, like we say. Do you think Nigeria is at the point now where, we are able to sort of challenge the status quo and, be a little more vocal about these things? Or was it just a social media phase?
No, I think we're really at a place where every individual understands their role, in creating change in their community. Because you can be wealthy and comfortable, but if SARS sees you on the road, they will pick you.
Yeah.
So it's not just social media. People actually organizing offline, especially during the church too.
Yeah.
The case against Biodun Fatoyinbo.
Yes.
There was a lot of social media push regarding the case, but people actually organized offline and went to the church to march and say, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
So it's not just a social media movement. We're seeing young Nigerians understanding that, we can't keep silent and expect that people in power will make this difference for us or make this change. We have an active role to play. It might be minimal, but, if we're able to organize, CNSAS, respect to Shegalink, one man who you can easily call and say, I've been robbed or I've been arrested, help me, and he will take action. This man is not paid by government. He doesn't work for government. It's just one citizen who understands that as an active citizen, like Auntie Obi likes to say, he has a power, to make change and to ensure that young Nigerians do not feel harassed or embarrassed by the Nigerian police force. So
there are people who always say that, I like the fact that you're talking about, taking things offline, because it's something I want to know how a lot of Nigerians can do more of.
Yeah.
There are people who say, we just shout on social media. Some of the people in our parents' generation even say, people are not serious. People are never going to take over because all people do is tweet, and then you go and sleep inside AC. You are not ready to sort of take charge. We're not talking about, nobody's the one to take it to our government, but we're talking about how do we sort of translate those voices into action and be more proactive with, just things that we demand as citizens.
I think the problem is, as young people, we do not understand our priorities. So, for example, when Big Brother Nigeria, some of the contestants, people actually went on the streets to campaign for them. They organized, they raised funds, they bought gifts. But when it comes to, social issues, we're like, maybe because it doesn't affect me now, I don't have to be bothered about it.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is we need to take our activism offline. We need to interface with the powers and bodies that, are in charge of these issues. So, for example, SARS or sexual violence or, xenophobia, for example. We need to actually interface with these people. Yes, social media is a great platform that connects all of us because there are some people you cannot easily reach, but you can reach them on social media. Yeah. However, we need to go back to the era of occupying, where citizens understand that we would imagine young people say, for an entire month, if we don't see a change on a particular issue, we're shutting down. Like, nobody's doing anything. We're actually sitting in front of the House of Assembly or wherever it is, making our demands known. So what is happening in South Sudan? One woman mobilized thousands.
Or Hong Kong, even.
Thousands came out day after day. And that's one thing about, advocacy in Nigeria sometimes, is consistency. there's this mobilization for 1 day or 2 days, and then everyone is dispersed and like, well, please, I'm hungry. Let me go deal with my personal issues.
But isn't it also, sorry to cut you, isn't that also sort of a function of the society we're in, where people just believe that, government is not as sensitive, maybe? I mean, there's a lot of fear, for example, about the social media bill that's about to be passed, things like that.
Yeah.
So maybe confidence in the system is not as strong, maybe, you think?
It may not be strong, right? But then we as citizens need to understand our roles.
Yeah.
If the government is not sensitive, we need to keep pushing our issues forward and say, if you're not paying attention, maybe you do not know. Now we're bringing it to you for you to understand these are things that affect us. These are our demands, and we need it by so and so time. Keep asking, keep demanding. I didn't, start Stand Up in 1 day, and then after 6 months, I abandoned it because the system was hard.
Yeah.
I kept at it. I kept pushing. Like, government needs to listen. I want this. We need that. We need to, keep pushing and getting it done. And look at where we are today. So it just takes time to get change. But you need to be consistent. You need to be very deliberate. And for the other generations, how many of them come out when we organize or even support when we do? We keep saying, oh, young people are not serious. But those who are serious, do you push your weight behind them?
Yeah.
So it takes everyone, whether you're old or young, we're all hungry. We all don't have power or electricity. Things affect us generally. So we should, end that divide. Yeah. Let the old generation and the new generation like us come together and say, we are a collective and we need to push the country forward.
Yeah, very, very true there. I know we don't have a crystal ball here, but looking at 2020, what are some campaigns or advocacy sort of movements you think will be pretty big in 2020, you think?
I think the existing ones are going to expand. Yeah. So, for example, Stand Up is a movement. It's going to expand to other states in 2020. Me Too as well. I believe it's going to expand. Market March will expand as well.
Market March, yeah.
Sex for Grades was a documentary that was done, but then there are like follow-up activities that are ongoing for 2020. So you're going to see a lot of restructuring in terms of how university systems respond and prevent sexual harassment on campus.
Yeah.
And SARS is going nowhere. It's going to expand as well.
Unfortunately, I mean, if only SARS would stop doing what they do, maybe it would end, but yeah. But
I mean, we just have to keep, pushing, but importantly, we need reforms. We need systemic reforms, Advocacy is great, but it needs to lead to one thing, which is the change you want to see in the system. So that should be the end goal of our advocacy. It's not just to organize and, just make demands on specific things. This is what we want to see.
Yeah.
And, I'm very excited about 2020. I see a lot of young women getting into advocacy and pushing, a lot more issues.
Very quickly before we go, you mentioned Sex for Grades there, and I wanted to get I know you were sort of a part of that. People say that was just a pinch in the entire sort of system. We just talked about 2 lecturers in 2 countries that have a systemic problem. Did you see that make a difference? What do you think, like, a major shift will be experienced soon?
It did make a difference because prior to, to now, people would talk about sexual harassment, but, there's this disbelief, oh, where is the evidence? How does it happen? We can't see any evidence. Yeah. But, I mean, you could see that Dr. Boniface, got sacked. His church also distanced themselves from him. That's a bold statement. Prior to now, if you report a case, it sometimes dies down. But this was a shift. The House of Assembly will introduce the sexual harassment bill, and it passed the second reading. We need the bill to be passed because it has like very specific systems it needs to put in place in universities. Yeah. So it did create change, but like I said, the follow-up is the most important thing. The programs are going to run in 2020 to see that what we saw in the documentary actually translates, to a better system on campus.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Definitely great talking to you. Hopefully we come back in 2020 and talk about better things.
Yes, absolutely.
And improvements generally in the system. 2020, the year of clear vision for Nigeria. Thank you very much for being here today. Like I always say, you can follow the conversation on Twitter. Rubbin Minds now is the handle. The hashtag to use is also Rubbin Minds. Thanks a lot for joining us, and I'll see you next year. Have a great time.